No, I'm gonna start right here. Ready, set, 3, 2, 1. Let's go. Yeah, yeah. Come on. Oh yeah. Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of PepTalks Podcast. This is gonna be a great episode because, like we just spoke about it, we're gonna be able to kind of maybe tweak what we feel like could have been done better. Now, all of this was because of mistake, and I have to admit, it happened one more time. It ain't pep talks without mistakes, you know. We've had this happen way back in the day when I started the other one, and I thought I would get over it, but somehow I did it again. But everything happens for a reason, and maybe it was a hidden gem, so we'll see how that goes. Joining me today is fellow entrepreneur. He's a personal trainer and a leader of men to me and to a lot of us that have shared the, experience that he gives. My friend, Michael Chiara.
Yes.
Chiara, let's go. Welcome, brother.
Appreciate you having me, man.
Nice. I hate that I butcher your last name again, but sometimes I forget. I was like, Chiara or Chiara?
Honestly, I think so. In Italian, they say Chiara, but I think in America they say Chiara.
Chiara.
So I just go the Italian way.
Chiara.
Yep.
No, and then with me, it's like Fuentes. They get it sometimes, but they're like, what does that mean? And I'm like, Fountain. They're like, your last name's Fountain? That is clean. And I'm just like, yeah, but just call me Fuentes. Man, super glad to have you on the show. I know, like, the other time was it was very special, and but like I said, everything happens for a reason, and I feel like this is our second time to go around, and I'm very thankful to have you again. Letting me do it one more time. How you been, man?
Absolutely.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year as well. Happy New Year to everyone watching. Happy 2025. Setting big goals, big dreams, big aspirations moving into this year, and just excited to start the year off strong.
Yeah, I have like to set other goals too, but I'm actually still following some of the ones that I set last year. I realized you can't put like a limit or a time frame on progress, but I'm glad that I'm looking for better strategies to kind of tighten more, get more and more in focus. I feel like last year was awakening year, and now it's time to put in more work. I got like the plan, I just got to execute now.
Absolutely. I mean, that's the name of the game. I think everyone's got great ideas, right? Everyone's got great thoughts, but the execution is the hard part, right? And execution, not only for a month or two, but for years, right? They say some people get excited for 2 months. Few people get excited for a year. The winners get excited for however long it takes to win.
And I'm starting to realize that it's a very tough journey, and it's a long journey. But when you accept the challenge, and I feel like that takes a lot just to realize what you're gonna have to let go of. I've realized I have to let go of a lot of different things. Bad habits, try to things that are getting in the way that I can control. I think that's the first thing somebody has to do when trying to set those long-term goals is, like I got to look at the, X and Y's that I can take out of the way. And like you said, executing is the hardest part. The getting up is the hardest part, doing it all over when you don't have the energy is when it's hardest too.
Yeah, I mean, think about it. You wake up at 5:30, 6 o'clock, and no one's around you. You got to get in the cold plunge and hit a 3-minute cold plunge when no one's around you. It's a lot easier when you got accountability and people around you, like at the retreat. But are you doing those things, reading your Bible before you start the day, getting cold, whatever it may be? Are you doing those things consistently for a long period of time, even if you're not feeling like you're winning, but you're still doing them because you know you're getting better every single day and you know that you're progressing?
Yeah, and I think that's faith. And when I say faith, people are like, oh, like we said, it's not a very religious, I'm not meaning it just in that sense or in the spiritual sense. I mean it more as in like faith in yourself. Like, I believe that what I'm doing is good for me and I'm doing my best. And I feel like if you believe that, it kind of helps you push a little bit more, because if you have faith in yourself that, like, you're betting on yourself at a certain point, at a degree, you're betting on it, whatever you're doing, you're letting go of some things that maybe won't come back later in life. So you got to, bet on yourself. And when you do that, I think that's when it really, really, you can go all in.
Absolutely. I mean, you think about entrepreneurship, for example, you're having blind faith, right? You're jumping off a cliff and building an airplane on the way up. And so I think for people like us owning our own business, running our own ship, it's important to have that faith, because at the end of the day, you may not be able to see the full staircase as long as you just keep taking one step at a time.
Yeah. And talk about entrepreneurship, man. You've been popping off, doing a lot of different businesses. What do you do normally?
So I own a personal training company. I've been a trainer for 10 years. I've owned my own company for the last 7. It's been an absolute blessing. It's been an emotional roller coaster to say the least, but helping people has been a blessing. At the end of the day, being able to wake up and train people and help them with their health and fitness, create longevity in their lives. It's really one of the most fun things in my opinion to do. And then I own a real estate company as well, buying rental properties. That's a business that's really focused more on long-term, 5 to 10 years from now. But that's more so for my future family. For me, I want to have kids, I want to have a big family. And for me, I understand that you don't want to just make money one way. You want to make money in a couple different ways. But I think at a young age, you got to focus on one strong thing for a long time. And once you get really, really good at that, you can start diversifying yourself into other things like real estate and things like that.
I think that's one thing that no regrets in life, but I've realized that when I was younger, I lacked the discipline to focus on one thing. However, only thing I was ever good at is just, being able to speak, speak my mind, speak clearly, and maybe not in a sense of being super mature. I would say very mature things, but I would say in a way of like, I knew what the consequences were if it went south, and I didn't mind it. So I was very, I stood for what I said, and even if I feel like it came out on the wrong way, I feel like I knew what it meant. And now I realize that's a voice you have to say. You have to say what you mean and why you meant it. But I learned that along the lines.
And if you feel like you're focusing on more than one thing, or you're focusing on 5 different things, whether it's a couple different businesses, your job, a couple side hustles, you got to look at it like this. If you're in a garden and you're chasing 15 rabbits, if you're chasing all 15 rabbits, there's a really good chance you're going to catch none of them. You want to focus on catching that one rabbit first, right? So, for example, if you have 2 businesses, right, it's like, all right, well, is one of them established already? Does one of them operate like a well-oiled machine, or is it where you're just consistently working hard every single day over and over and over again, where the other businesses get no attention? You want to make sure that first business is established, and then being able to put more energy and effort into the other business. But then we also talk about leveraging systems, right? Hiring virtual assistants, having systems in place where you're not doing all the work. Those things are important, because at the end of the day, we only have 24 hours in a day.
Yeah, and I like the divide it into 3, the 24 hours. That's one of my main goals to practice this year is, fitting the 8 hours of sleep, 8 hours of work, and then 8 hours of being a human, doing things you love, working out, all the extra stuff. And I think that's going to be like my biggest feat, is that I have to try to organize. I'm very unorganized. And like we said, we think it's good. We think we've gotten this far on it. That was one of the biggest things. That in my mind, I always said that, like, it's gotten me to here, and I'm okay. I'm doing good for what it is, but it could be better if you organize. So that was one of the things that I was like, start setting like time frames on things, even with like work, with like my passions, like turning stuff like this, and being more diligent with that, letting go of like thumb scrolling, and just setting those goals also requires like having a plan. Like I said, I have a plan now, and maybe it's not a full laid out plan. It's still a plan in progress, and then the execution will just be the thing that takes us home.
For sure. Love it, man. Yeah, no, I think at the end of the day, going back to the faith part, having faith, having belief, truly believing and trusting God's plan for your life. If you just trust in that and you take the daily steps every single day, that's what's going to glorify Him at the end of the day.
Now, in your business, you say you have an amen to that, but in your business, you said you have 10 years of experience, 7 years as being on your own thing. In those 3 years that you started with, what made you like? What was that time frame like? What did it teach you?
Man, like, it was tough. So I played baseball growing up. That was kind of the goal and dream. After an injury, personal training fell into my lap, and personal training, if you look at just what society says about personal training, there's really not much money in it. But at the end of the day, there are industries that there aren't much money in, but people are making millions of dollars. So for me, I didn't want to personal training doesn't pay that much as a limited belief. For me, training people, helping people, giving people more longevity, more quality years of life outweighed the fear of not making money. And so it took me 4 years to really go full-time in my company. Took multiple years to even make $1,000 a month. I remember when I got certified, we were in a huge classroom of like 100 people, and the guy up there was like, only 2% of you guys will ever get to a 6-figure income doing this as a business. And for me, I was like, you can make 6 figures doing this? Like, dude, sign me up. Let's go. Like, I didn't even know that was possible. I just wanted an opportunity to help people. You know, I was young. I was like 17, 18 years old. So for me, that wasn't like I'm not going to be able to make money. It was like, I just want to have an opportunity to like give back and help people. And fitness was always a big passion of mine. And so once I went full time, it gave me that opportunity to really go all in and to be able to care about clients in a deeper way. Obviously, not having to work 8 hours at a job and then build my business on the side. It gave me the full day to build my business, which that's really gave me the opportunity to scale. Wrote a book in 2019 called The Longevity Game. That's on Amazon as well. And so for me, that's kind of what gave me the opportunity to go full time in my business.
Nice. So yeah, it just takes, it's not a overnight thing. It's not and that even started kind of like the root of it was in your childhood, huh? When you started actually playing, learning how to actually work out, how to do certain exercises. And I think when people kind of go down to their like childhood, they can realize that they were always doing something that now they do today, and one way or another, And I think, like you said, now I realize that as parents, my parents, taught me work, taught me all of that, more of a mentality of go and get it. And I feel like even that was kind of like a trait that they were passed me down, and I have till today. So just try to go back to your roots and kind of figure out what you're good at and be like, let me just stick to that. If it's my calling, and if it isn't, at least I tried.
Because I think people always have a go back and forth with, well, if my passion doesn't pay that much, should I still do it? I still think you should do it, but you also have to live, right? So a lot of the times people think, well, I love basketball and I just want to be a basketball coach, but maybe basketball coaching doesn't pay you that much, but you have a family. Do basketball coaching on the side and then work your full-time job. That doesn't mean that you're a bad person. It doesn't mean you're not living out your passion. You may be helping kids that you don't even realize. You may be giving kids things that they don't have at home. You may be giving inspiration and motivation to kids where they're not getting it at home. And so to do your business full-time or to do your passion full-time, sometimes it does not work at the timeline you want. You just, like I said, you have to trust God's plan. You have to figure out what is it that you want, right? And if you have family and kids and people to support, you got to make sure that you take care of that first. Because, yeah, if your basketball coaching career only pays you a certain amount of money that doesn't allow you to support your family, unfortunately, you're not going to be able to do that full-time. Your family, at the end of the day, does come first. And so you got to be able to support them.
Yeah, and I like that, like, give yourself time for passion, because that kind of takes you away from all of the other empty stuff, like the materialistic, all of that illusion of what a life should be that we kind of get intrigued by on social media and all of that stuff. We see the good of everything that happens, but we never really see the bad that they carry. And like they say, that you wouldn't want to trade what nobody has in their closet when you see what you have in yours, and you're like, yeah, I like my stuff. I'll just keep whatever is for me because it's for me, made by me through choices or occurrences in your life. And so right now with all of that personal training, you're also doing real estate. How do you find time to do the retreats, or how did it all come to?
Yeah, so the retreats was a passion project. We all remember what happened in 2020. Everything shut down. People were stuck at home. People weren't traveling. People weren't doing anything other than staying in their house, either getting really fit with home workouts or sitting around drinking, smoking weed, and getting overweight. And so for me as an entrepreneur, I always look at, if there's a problem in the world and I feel like I have a solution, I'm going to go offer it to the marketplace. And so I think it was June of 2020, I reached out to a couple friends. I said, hey, I just want to go to a cabin for a couple days, just focus on growth, talk about our goals, talk about our vision, just get out of Atlanta for a couple days because we've been stuck here for, almost 3 months. And so we just had a great time. We just had great conversations, deep conversations. People got vulnerable. People shared some of the things that they went through during COVID, even people, having a family member die, things like that, where people didn't get that opportunity when they were stuck at home. And so after that retreat, that gave me the ability of, I want to do this once a year. So then I started doing it once a year. 2021 came around. We had a great retreat. And then after that retreat, I wanted to do more. So then I was like, let's do this every two times a year. So then we did it 2 times a year. Now it's every quarter. And for me, the way I look at it is, if I can give a man, because every man needs this. I don't care how much money you make. I don't care where you're at in your life. Every man needs an opportunity at least once or twice a year to fully disconnect and reconnect with themselves, right? because we're working, right? We're on Zoom calls nonstop. We're spending time with family, you're spending time with friends. But when do you spend time with yourself? When do you spend time with people who are on the same level or on the same growth-minded level as you? We don't really get that opportunity often, right? When we usually go on vacation, it's usually for us to be with family, be with friends, and that's amazing. I think everyone needs that multiple times a year. But I think once or twice a year, you need to give yourself that opportunity to go to go to the woods for a day or two to rethink, to restructure, to recreate what some of the thoughts in your mind, to heal some of the things in your mind, get around like-minded individuals. And if you're able to do that, I think that's what's really going to spiral you into a lot of growth and momentum moving forward after that retreat.
And indeed, it felt that way because even though we were all it felt like we were all running in our own game. That one felt like a very like hot, like a stop, and you're just kind of like, okay, I gotta really, really like, turn it off right now and relax. And I feel like a lot of us were coming from a lot of like fast movement, quick thinking to just be like, oh, we get to relax for at least a day or two, because I felt like as soon as we came back, there was a lot of things that happened for me and everything. And that's when a lot of my friends asked, like, buddy, do you think you're going to stick with this stuff? Like, did it really change you? And I saw it more. I was like, it's not that it's going to, like, officially just fix you. There's a lot of self-work that you have to do. This is just more of, like, an enlightenment tree. Like, more of, like, you realize what your problems are, and that way you can face them in a more clear-minded way. And you have examples to go off of. Guys that are basically or sometimes going the same thing as you, going through the same occurrences in life, and you don't even realize it, where you are in a game of being alone and you're in your own mind. You feel like only this is happening with me. Then you go out to the world and you're like, oh crap, like these guys are just normal guys like me or doing great things, but we all kind of rue at the same problems or the same kind of insecurities or doubts. And it's not, like you said, until we take that step back and really realize, like, well, I can just if I lean on a brother, maybe it would all be a lot easier.
You look at people who go to the club, right? You go think about people who go to the bars. What are they looking for? They're looking for community. They don't go to the bars because they're going to be the only person in there. They're not going to dance by themselves. They're going because they want community. And so here, that's what we do, right? We get men together, 8 to 12 men every quarter, get them on a retreat, get them away, get them to disconnect, being able to get around like-minded individuals and not have to focus on some of the things that are at home. Because at the end of the day, we don't get vulnerable with our women, right? We don't get vulnerable with our family. We don't get vulnerable with ourselves, but we'll get vulnerable with men that we fully trust. And the retreat offers that. The retreat offers you the opportunity to share some of the things that you're struggling with. And when we talk about, this being Christian-based, this is not all of us just talking about the Bible throughout the weekend, right? We do talk about the Bible, but what we really focus on is, like, what are some of the things that you're struggling with? We have serious conversations. We have funny conversations. We have, as we call them, off-the-court conversations where it has nothing to do with anything that I script. It's just basic conversations. There are people who have become business partners on the retreat. There are people who have connected as friends on the retreat and have stayed friends for years. And that's what it's about. It's not about, all right, how can you learn how to make $1 million or how can you market your business better? There are things that you'll learn about yourself that will help you become a better marketer or help you build your business. But the whole goal of it is for 3 things: God, community, and growth. If those are the 3 words that really break down the retreat: God, community, growth. Those 3 things, if you have all 3 of those things in your life as a man, there's a 98% chance that you're doing pretty well in life.
And it's just a matter of like being able to call. I've had that with Lalo, with Eduardo, for many years, and I feel like maybe that was just one of my bonuses, in life, that I was able to call some. I've had other like older friends like that are just a little bit different face in life that I can call, and they give me the perspective of like what they've been through. And you kind of see like, okay, if you're the example, I like the way it's going because, they're doing the same things that I'm probably trying at their age, where like, trying to like try different things, working hard and being true that like what I can do, I'll try to do my best. And if I try to follow that, it's been going good having people like that. But I definitely always tell people like find friends that like can help, I'm not saying that forget the ones that can't, and be like, hey, this is just this is for me to win. But yeah, like watch who you surround yourself with, and it's kind of like if some things don't work out, those people are still going to be there. It's not like you hate them; they just don't fit in the matter of life that we're in sometimes, and that's okay.
Yeah, and there's a quote: "You can't heal what you're scared to reveal." there are people who have demons. There are people who have brokenness. We all have brokenness in some sort of way, whether it's traumas from the past, from your childhood, but we all have brokenness. We all have demons. We all have things that we struggle with. And for you to go into a room, and again, it's not like, all right, this is going to be a therapy session where everyone just talks about what they're struggling with and we move on. It's like, no, these are brothers that are going to lean on you and help you and keep you accountable, not only at the retreat, but more importantly, when you leave. Because that's the goal. There's no point of going to a retreat to be able to receive all the information and not apply it when you get home. If you don't apply it, there's no point of going. It's the same thing with if you hire a personal trainer. If you do the workout with your trainer and you don't eat clean, you don't get good sleep, and you don't drink water, there's no point of working out with the trainer, because what's going to happen is you're not going to see any results. And instead of blaming yourself, you're going to blame the trainer. I've seen it happen over and over again, right? And so you got to keep yourself accountable. You got to be real with yourself, right? Sometimes what happens is people don't have enough pain. They don't feel it enough. And they say when the pain overrides the fear of change, people change, right? When the pain overrides the fear of change, that's when people will change. So you don't get in life what you want, you get what you tolerate. When you stop tolerating it, that's when you change. And when people can feel enough pain, that's really where the breakthrough happens. And sometimes that's what God gives you. God gives you a true test of like, hey, you're going to start this business. Are you willing to go through a year or two of real struggle? Or, hey, this friendship may start off like in a rocky way, but this is truly a friendship that's meant for you. Or a relationship, like, hey, there are going to be challenges in your relationship. You guys live an hour away from each other. Like, are you guys going to be able to make that work? The pain, like, can you figure out how to get through the pain? Can you figure out a way to change? And if you can, there's a really good chance of whatever you're trying to do is going to work.
Yeah, and it's not like with the pain, I feel like a lot of people try to measure like, okay, but this is how much I should go through. Sometimes it's not up to you. It's up to the plan. It's up to the trust of what you have, of what you're doing. And yeah, it can be very deceiving sometimes to be like, is this enough? This should be enough. This shouldn't go bad or like worse than this. And or if it is, I shouldn't try after that, because then I could get hurt. Sometimes it's like you don't know your power until you're really put up against the wall. And even then you're like, dang, I could still go for more. If this is the hardest, like this is not that bad. And you surprise yourself at the end. But it's not until you face that, you face those demons.
What ultimately, in my opinion, defines you is when you've got nothing to your name, you're on your knees and thinking, what do I do next? And when you're in that situation and you can come out of it successfully, you are truly defined as a person who can get up from true pain and be able to actually create momentum in your life. Because you always hear the people who go from homeless to millionaire, or people who go from drug addict to clean, or people who go from somebody who, may have went through a really, really bad breakup 3 or 4 different times and to be able to find their person that they're supposed to be with. That ultimately defines you. I appreciate those stories. I love hearing people going from broke to millionaire, or going from, me personally, one of my favorite is when someone loses 200 pounds. Like, man, you were at rock bottom. You were at a point where not only were you overweight, but the doctor was like, hey, if you don't change something in 5 years, you're probably going to be dead. So that goes back to what I was just talking about, how if the pain overrides the fear of change, that's when you change. That's sometimes what it comes to. Sometimes God gives you that test so hard, and it's like, why is he continuously testing me like this? Like, this is really, really tough, but there's a plan behind it. Just continue going through with the pain, because what's going to happen is if you just say, like, you know what, I'm done with the pain, like, where do you go, right? There's no other option. Like, it's like you got to get through it or you don't, right? And if you don't get through it, like, you're just going to stay the same. So it's continuously pushing past those boundaries. I think the biggest thing when it comes to pushing past boundaries is accountability, is brotherhood, right? If you're a man watching this and you're struggling with things like that, a retreat may be a really great idea. Coming for 48 hours, not having to buy a plane ticket or anything like that, but to be able to truly be like, you know what, I'm going to drive up to North Georgia for an hour. It literally takes me an hour to get there, stay for 36 to 48 hours, really experience this retreat, really focus on communication, self-reflect, disconnect from my reality, because everything going on in my life, it may not be great, or it may be great. Even if it is going great, it's still good to disconnect once or twice a year.
It's crazy that when I mentioned where I had gone to a couple friends, their reaction was like, wait, they make those? Like, what do you mean? And I was just like, oh, like when they seem more intrigued than kind of like pushing it away, it kind of woke me up and being like, okay, like people do need this. And that's when they even like lent their ear to just kind of hear. They're like, we're very interested in like maybe this is something that I could do, because again, we're all going through wars and we think it's just on us. One thing that I liked about you saying is that like when you're in pain, you know, there's don't question why he's putting you through it. Just know that it's for the process. I love that Denzel Washington, he says something along the lines of when everything is going good and you feel like there's no challenge and you're just comfortable, um, the devil doesn't go for the people that are in that situation, because he's like, that's good. Like, just stay right there. Like, when you feel nothing's happening towards you, and there's no challenge in your life and there's only comfort, I used to think that that's the aim, that's the goal. Like, I just need to be in that situation. When you're in there, you're like, oh, this is not what I thought it would be. And and then when you have a calling more than anything and you kind of touched on it and you leave it, it will never leave you alone. It will just keep gnawing at you until it, like you said, you go through enough pain to where you're not tolerating it anymore, and it's time to change.
For that, I love that point, because pressure is a privilege. If you're going to write anything down on this podcast, pressure is a privilege, because if you don't have pressure, it means you're not growing. There's a saying, if you're not growing, you're dying. You made a really good point. If you are comfortable and everything's going great, right? There's no struggle, there's no challenge, there's no pressure. There's a chance that the devil has you exactly where he wants you. But if you do have pressure and you do have challenge and there are things that are not going necessarily right, maybe what's happening is God is trying to create something way bigger than your situation. You just don't see it yet. And that is why it's so important to have faith, because when God's putting things on your heart and God's putting tests in your life and you're understanding, like, I need to have a vision for this, because if I have a vision for this, there's a really, really good chance I need to follow this pressure. I need to follow this pain, right? But again, it's not about staying there. It's about overcoming the pain, right? So, like, for example, if you're struggling with alcohol, right, and you're going to the bars every single weekend, maybe God's putting into your life, like, hey, like, this friend has been telling you to come to this retreat for a very long time. Why haven't you come? This friend is telling you, like, hey, let's start hanging out with better people. Hey, look into potential going to therapy. Like, there's nothing wrong with that at all. But sometimes people are so stuck because they think that everything in their life is great. Going to the bars, drinking every single weekend, eating bad food, not getting around the right people, but you make a ton of money, so everything's fine. When in reality, it's not fine. The devil just has you exactly where he wants you.
That the alcohol one is kind of like an example to me of like, give something small and he'll give you the world. I didn't realize it at the time, and I didn't do it on a spiritual like basis. When I gave up drinking, I actually just made 2 years right now on the New Year's.
Congrats.
And that's when I kind of, now that like we put it in this perspective of like, give something small and receive the world, I realized that when I gave that up, it for a long time it was like a whole, probably like even the way people recognized me. Like, I'm telling you, like, I would get almost into fights because people thought I was disrespecting them, not wanting to drink from their bottle or from, with them, because they were like, I know you drink, but why are you not drinking with me? And you're like, I just don't. I promise you. I don't. Like, it would get to that point, because at a certain point, that's the only relationship I had with people. And when I gave it up, it was more of like, I want to do something better with me, with my life, with who I am, and something stopping me, where a lot of things were stopping me, where I was like, I need to start letting go of stuff. And I feel like that, letting go of that gave me clarity. Now, yeah, I do other things that maybe aren't great. Like, I indulge in, the ganja and all of that. Maybe I say curse words and stuff like that, but I'm a work in progress, and I'm glad that I realized that gave me clarity. That gave me more of like, when you mess up, you will realize it even more. Because a lot of people, when they get drunk, even when I used to do it to like forget, and you do forget because you do stupid things, and you have that to fall back on. I'm like, I was just blacked out. Where in here, you mess up, you have no excuse. Everybody knows you're 100% there, and I feel like that's the biggest choice of like, when you're gonna go out, you're gonna have to show everybody who you truly are. You're not, you're not like under the influence. You're very clear minded, and I feel like people realize that, and I think that puts me more on like under a telescope, and you got to watch what you say, what you do, and it just makes you clear on everything, every mistake and every glory. So I think I truly attest that like, when you give something up, it doesn't have to just be that. I always tell people it's what you feel like is bothering you the most. If, like you said, if it's really not a problem of your drinking and everything, cool. Maybe it's laziness, maybe it's procrastination, which a lot of us carry. Even I carry myself. So I can definitely see what you're saying when we gotta just kind of trust.
And like, there's nothing wrong with going out, right? When it's an issue and it's a consistent problem and you feel like your liver is about to explode and you feel like you're addicted and you feel like you can't live without it, that's where it's the problem. It's not the, hey, I'm going to go out once a month. If you want to go out once a month and you're doing well in life and everything's moving, you want to celebrate, go for it, right? But we're talking about people who live for the weekend. That's where it can get dangerous.
Exactly, because you have a false. It is a community, and there are great people there, but you also have people that are running from things, and you're meeting the wrong side of who they are. You're meeting, the lustful, the more indulging part, where you don't see they're fresh minded. What a lot of these guys are fresh entrepreneurs, but they're just also running from things where they feel like they got to show out, they got to do this, they got to do that. If you met them at a regular time when they're actually clear minded, you'd meet great people. But we decided to go for what's easy, what's like, because that takes time out of your day. You got to do meetings now. We consider those meetings. You got to set up times, lunches, or that just is getting an hour in. That takes a lot of time. That takes a lot of thought. So I felt that way, and now I meet those people today, and we're just like, man, we were a little distracted back then, huh? But I'm also glad I went through it because now I know what's on the. I'm not curious anymore, and I feel like that got me a lot more ahead because I started going out when I was even like 16, 17 in high school. We were throwing parties with seniors, and we were freshmen. I started working really young, so we were able to get bottles like this because you have the money. You're not paying anything more than like whatever you give your parents, and that's it. And you're paying for your shoes, your stuff. So it was easy. Boom. And that's when I tell people, I was like, I started when I wasn't supposed to. So when I got to 21, people were like, how are you not 21? We've been partying with you since like 3 years ago. And they thought we were already in there. So I feel like that was just my lesson, and I'm glad I got it the time that I got it because I don't feel like I lost on anything. It really did build me up. It made me a lot more mature because I was with a lot of people. You do grab onto that, a lot of like older like customs, and I think that kind of drew me out from the pile. And with you kind of going into the retreats, like your goal is I don't want to put it out there, but your goal is 100 retreats. Like, you feel like you're on a good path to that?
Yeah, I mean, I look at it as like doing one a quarter for the next, we've done 11 so far over the last 4 years. Now we do 4 a year. You just do the math, right? Next 20, 25 years, being consistent with this. I think for me, it's just finding new men every single time to just experience something so powerful. Because at the end of the day, like I said earlier, it doesn't matter about how much money you make, doesn't matter how fit you are. You could be a drug addict, you could be homeless, you could be successful, you can own Bugattis, you could literally be any kind of man. I truly believe I would put every dollar on the line that every man that's watching this video, whoever will watch this video, does need this and will benefit from it. Because again, it's not about what you learn. It's about what you're able to self-reflect on and who you connect with and how you connect with God. That's why I think it's so powerful. And so for me, just doing couple retreats every single year. And again, 100 is that's just like, I believe there are 800 to 1,000 men in this world that 100% will commit to this. I believe there will be so many more. I truly believe there will be more than 100 retreats that I'll do. But I want people to experience it because at the end of the day, if I have 50, but there are 400 people truly had their life changed, that's a win. In my opinion, I've already won, right? There have been so many people who've become more successful. There are people who have decided that they want to be in a long-term relationship and they start pursuing women who they've been scared to do that in the past. They are all type of stories. So for me personally, even if I stop the retreats now, which I don't think if I wanted to, I could, it has already been a success because of the transformations that have come from the retreats.
Yeah, and then I took a lot of personal note of what, you did a lot. We just talked about that you were working the whole time. On the money part, like when you really, I've been in the mountains a lot with my family. We enjoy being up there. You know what a cabin costs. So I know that you're not doing this for the money. At one point, I hope it does pay off where, hey, you know what? You got to pay because, what you're worth. And I like that you're practicing that before you go take that step. There's other people that mess up that maybe they could be that change, but they get too greedy on like, no, I think I should be making this much off of it. I need to be making this my full time, and I need to be making this figures. And I feel like that's when it turns into greed more than just helping. And I can tell, like, man, you were, when we did the podcast at night, you knocked out right after. And I was just like, it makes sense. I took probably 2 naps that whole day. And I was like, I was still kind of tired. So it's a lot of thinking. It's a lot of physical. Like, I like that we spoke about it earlier. Here, you kind of get put to the test around other men. And that was a big part of it, because you're right. With the physical part, you kind of get to look to the side, left and right, like, hey, man, maybe I could be doing a couple more push-ups. Never really applied push-ups if I'm at the gym because I have weights. But I don't realize, I'm like, no, if you do, my brother Steven does 100 sit-ups, and that's his warm-up. And sometimes I'm like, maybe he's overworking it, but shit, if he can do it and still work out, means that I gotta at least try a little bit harder. And that's the thing, you get put to the test alongside your brothers, because we do the cold plunge in the river. That was insane. Like you said, when you're in there, you're looking around as well, and you're like, he's not getting up, and that becomes more of like, not an egomaniac thing. It's more of just like, it's the natural instinct of being competitive along great men, and you know that you can keep up, but now it's really pushing you to, like, especially you say get a little deeper, and I'm like, fuck it, just lay down then at this point, because I found a very awkward rock. But when I lay down, I was like, this is insane, this is crazy, the water's all over me. And I was just like, but the only way I could do it is seeing Christian being completely immersed.
Yeah.
I don't know how he found that spot. And I was like, well, I got to do it if he's like, that pushes you. So definitely finding, people that came on this retreat, I could tell that maybe like they didn't have like a big outreach to people, where now they're like, no, I have something to give to the world, and the world has something to give to me. And being able to accept it, that was a big part too.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, when you're on the retreat, like Jose said, everything gets exposed. Your weaknesses, your strengths, right? If you're working out and, we're doing a group workout and you don't really work out, yeah, we've had people puke. We've had people throw up. We've had people being like, man, I don't know how much longer I can go. Same thing with a cold plunge, right? Like, that challenges your mental toughness. See how long, we go in there for 5 minutes, and some people have never done cold exposure, but at the end of the day, it's not about cold exposure. It's truly to see how strong mentally you are. Like, being able to stay in cold water for 5 minutes, right? That's where you get all the physical benefits. Technically, 3 is where you get the physical benefits, like all the, when it comes to burning fat, gaining energy, skin, that's like the true 3 minutes. But for me, I was like, man, we've got 8 guys here. Let's push to 5, right? But then we get vulnerable in the room, right? Then we start talking about our demons, right? Like, people start talking about, like, man, like, I'm telling you, like, the things that you would never imagine, where, people have cheated on their wives and they come forward with it. People have had porn addictions, like, behind the scenes, like, not telling anybody about it. People have had alcohol addictions, not telling anyone about it. Like, people hide things behind closed doors. And what you do in the dark will always get revealed in the light. And I'm not saying the habit will get revealed, but who you are as a person will always get revealed. You can't hide yourself. You can't hide your demons. You'll know if someone's struggling with someone. You can feel it on them. And so I think for me, that's why it always goes back into trusting in God and truly being able to put all your faith in Him. There's a verse in the Bible, Peter 5:3, cast all your anxieties and weaknesses on Him because He cares for you. And so if you struggle, if you have something that you're really having a tough time giving up, cast it onto Him, saying, God, please take this struggle, please take this demon, please take this challenge away from me, because it is no longer serving me. And when you can do that, and 3-6 months of life goes by, and you see how much your life has changed because God has truly saved you. But again, a lot of the times people haven't given their life to God, right? And so if you haven't given your life to God, He's not going to be able to do that for you. I've had things in my life where I've completely healed because I've truly given my life to God. I've seen it, and I've witnessed His faithfulness alongside of so many men in my life and so many women who, there are women who I know who used to have sex before marriage with a bunch of different guys. They gave their life to God. They're beautiful women. They're like, I'm no longer having sex until I'm married. Like, that's incredible, right? You don't see that often, and there just needs to be more stories like that. And so, for me, when I hear things like that, like, I want to give back more. And so when you talk about, like, the price of the retreat, we're looking at anywhere from $320 to $350 for literally the entire weekend. Food, cabin stay, workbooks, but more importantly, a life-changing experience. The reason I don't do it for money, because a lot of people say, like, man, you could be charging so much more. For me, I'm 29 years old. I'm not a life coach. I'm not a guru. I own a personal training company. I own a real estate company, and I love doing retreats. And for me, Yeah, like, will I charge more as time goes on? Of course. But I see people charging like $3,500 for a 3-day retreat, and they don't have a dollar to their name, right? They don't have a business. They don't have any credibility. They haven't done anything in life. And so there's actually, as I was talking about earlier, like how there's a bad reputation about personal training not making money. There are a lot of people who try to do retreats and they don't make money, which again, for me, my goal isn't to make money on the retreats, because 9 times out of 10, there's someone on the retreat who becomes a personal training client out of mine, and there's a return on investment. But that's never the goal. My goal is truly to serve. But truly, when you do something out of your heart, there's always something that usually comes back in return. Just don't expect it. It's just a cherry on top.
It's the trust again. It's realizing that there might be something on the other side of it. You're not doing it for that. You're doing it for who you're gonna come out being. That's my whole ideology on this. That I'm like, he's more of just, I'm able to and I will do it. That's why a lot of people are like, oh man, like, are you gonna be making money on the podcast? I was like, even if I don't, I love it. That's the crazy part. That I'm stoked to be able to do something like this, and that I found something that I can share. I always knew I wanted to do something. I just didn't know it. And this kept popping up in my fucking head for 3 years, like I let go of it. And it always came back. Like, you could have done it while you were doing this fun, exciting thing. You could have talked about this exciting thing. And it just kept gnawing at me. Being creative, most of it, everything. I got to a point where I got so sedentary where it screamed at me to be creative by starting to do small painting, crafts and stuff. And I realized like that's kind of my, what the calling me, that it was so strong that I realized it made me uncomfortable being comfortable, because I realized that's not what I needed. My body was telling me at a certain point, like, get up, like, just, we're tired of letting you control and you're not doing a great job at it. And yeah, like with the retreat, I see that it's like you just truly just want somebody to get something out of it. And a lot of us come out being better because we realize we have a lot of problems, and we need these spaces. That's why I think a lot of us are just for it. I'm not telling anybody that I'm, God's favorite. Oh, boom, I'm Mr. Christian, but it's more of like, hey, now I'm glad that I believe. I'm glad that I didn't let go of that because of past occurrences in church or wherever I grew up. I still have faith that there's, a higher power. There's that one that will guide me. And if I still sin, it's not that that's the identity of me. It's that I'm just still human as well.
Yeah, Jesus died for our sins. And so for us, like, we have to understand that, yes, should we be sinning? Like, should we be doing things behind closed doors? No. But like, he literally died for us to do that. And so for us, if we do sin, we can't look at ourselves like we're a bad person, because we all do it. If you're on your phone scrolling for 3 hours and you don't get your work done, like, probably not a great habit. If you go and say, I'm not going to smoke or I'm not going to drink for 30 days and you do it, just get back up and say you're not going to do it again, right? Because a lot of times people say 30 days, 10 days go by, I'm a bad person, I lose my self-worth, I lose respect for myself. And yes, you will lose self-respect and you will lose self-worthiness of yourself when you do commit to something and you don't come through. But how do you bounce back from that? Because at the end of the day, that's really what it comes down to, right? If you cannot bounce back from a small challenge or something that you struggled with, this life is hard. Like, life is not easy. I mean, doesn't matter if you're an entrepreneur, you have a W-2 job, if you have kids, like, it's all hard, right? And as we get older, it only gets hard. Like, we don't have kids, we're not married, right? But when we do get married and we do have kids, the responsibility is only going to be 10 times higher, right? There's going to be more challenges, right? And they always say it, more money, more problems, right? It's going to be harder. So when you're in your 20s, you're in your early 30s, and you're at that point, it's about building yourself up. It's about building yourself up as the strongest human you could possibly become. Because if you're strong enough, right, and you have kids and you have struggles, it's not going to affect you as much as if you are single and you go through struggles and you can't get through them. Because if you're like that and you have kids, it's going to be really, really tough. And so I think the best thing to do as a single guy, or if you are in a relationship with someone and you're not fully married, on paper you're still technically single, build yourself up as much as you possibly can. Get your money right? Get your thoughts right, get your mental right, get your relationship with God right, get your fitness right, get everything right, and work on that every single day for as long as it takes. And when you have kids and you have family, again, this is me speaking from someone who doesn't have that, but I've seen it so many times where somebody is in a decent position, they have kids, They get married and everything falls apart because they don't have a strong foundation of life. You look at a building that's not built on a strong foundation. If there's a super big storm that comes through, the building's gone. And that's what happens to people's lives, right? They say, don't wait till the monster's big. Kill it when it's like baby Godzilla. When it's baby Godzilla, it's not going to kill you. Just kill it, right? But when it's Godzilla, it's like, I can't kill this now. This monster is way bigger than me. So there's literally no hope at that point. So when you have those struggles, you have those challenges, don't let it become bigger. Kill it right now.
I think one of the things you touched upon is like fatherhood. For me, having that in my focus in life, I like Sibo talked about it on one of the podcasts where he says you come to a point where you realize your kids, your offspring, whether especially boys, if you're a man, we connect more as in they're gonna realize who I am at a certain point. Girls too, if you have a little girl, that's a blessing as well. And I realized that today with my dad. He's been very open to showing me who he is, and kind of like take the good in me and realize the bad in me too, so you can avoid those problems. Don't repeat what I've done, and that takes a lot from him. And I hope now that pushes me that in hopes of when my turn comes to show my kids exactly who I am, I'm not ashamed of it. And even the stuff that I'm ashamed of, I'm able to realize and I can present that as well, because we grow up thinking they're our heroes, they're perfect, they're indestructible. But sooner or later, it's better to know that they're also human, because the way we react also affects them the way that it affects us. That took a lot for me to understand the words that I would say, the actions that I would put him through. Could have been avoided, Might I had like that realization that he was living his life for the first time just as I was. That took a lot for me to realize, and then we connected after that when I accepted that he's allowed to make mistakes, and so am I. And I also voiced that to him, that I'm a man now. So when I fuck up, just leave me. Like until I reach out of the waters to get to you, then. And I think that's when he kind of like also took a step back and was like, okay, you're right. Like I got to stop like fucking being on you now, because my job here is done. After this, all I can do is just give you words of guidance and kind of show you some type of light. But son, sometimes I won't even have the light. So it might be you who changes that. And there's been a lot of times where I turn to him and he was like, all I can do is just help you in what I know. From here on out, you and me are learning together. And that takes a lot for him to even admit. So yeah, like that's just a lot of things that can happen in your life that if you don't take the time to realize, it could get away. And it's starting small. Like you said, start with the small stuff. Don't. When we see the top of the ladder, we forget that the steps are there. Yep. You can't keep jumping up higher because you'll get tired and you just get burned out. So it's just starting off small, like realizing. And I think that's the great part.
And one of the things we do on the retreat is your mind is so powerful. We all know that. But a lot of the times people don't know how their mind works. And so for me, I'll kind of break it down for those who don't really know how your mind works. When you're born, when you are literally 0 years old and you were born all the way up until about 6 years old, you don't have a conscious. You can't accept or reject things because you don't have that yet. Your brain has not established that yet. So for the first 6 years of your life, everything you touch, smell, see gets plugged into your subconscious mind, meaning it just goes in, whether it's good or bad. So for example, for you, Jose, let's just say if you were younger and you were told that you're not worthy and you're not good and you're not, whatever it may be, just bad, negative things that are going into Jose's mind. When Jose turns 7, 8 years old and he's playing sports, all he's going to think about is why he's not good enough, why he's not worthy. And it's literally a computer system. That is how your mind works. So you're literally a computer system. Every file is literally saved. And when you're able to like actually start using your computer and to be able to use it, everything's going to be negative, right? Why? Because everything that's plugged in and programmed into the computer is negative. And so if that's the case, we have to figure out how to change your paradigm, which again is being around better people, relearning. Well, I always ask people, if you're playing golf and you have a tournament and you have a year to prepare, would you rather be on somebody's team who's been playing for 20 years, but they are not great at golf and they have a really bad swing and they've never done well? Or would you rather take somebody and train them for a year the right way that's never played? You're going to take the new person every single day, because that person who's been playing golf for 20 years in a very poorly way, they have to unlearn all of those bad habits, all of those tendencies, all those bad mechanics, and that's going to take more than a year. And so for us, we have to stop that now, right? If we're in our 20s, we're in our 30s, like, we don't want to get to a point where we're 50 and just say, well, this is the way I am. You ever see people that are like, man, this is just the way I am? No, that's how your subconscious is. That's how your subconscious is. Your subconscious mind is literally dictating every decision, every habit, everything that you do every single day in your life until you make the conscious decision to change it, which, again, like we talked about, getting around the right people, relearning, reading books, taking different action, different things that are going to scare you, right? Going to a retreat, challenging yourself that way, reprogramming your mind, I truly believe is one of the best things that you can do, outside of, obviously, number one, building your relationship with God, because that's what's truly going to get you in the right state of mind.
Yeah, I feel like with like something like in relationships, this year was it was a big investigation in myself of what I could have done better. Maybe I went back into time and I started kind of dissecting all the problems that I had in my past relationships, and I just realized that, yeah, like there's a lot of things that I could have done better, and it's tough to swallow that, that like raw like truth of who you were, but that's what I'm going through right now, because I don't want to lose somebody like that one more time. That sucked. It sucks that if I might have had like done something differently, or started thinking this way, maybe I could have saved it, but it just wasn't. It wasn't our time, or it wasn't what it was for, And it took a lot of me to realize that maybe I'm not ready also to be with somebody in that position for a while, because I just started seeing that, like, damn, I have a lot of things that I don't want to throw on the person anymore. There's things that maybe I don't know how to react to, and I started realizing that was bad on my part. Throwing shit, especially on a woman, is the worst thing that I think I can do as a man, because it's not their war, and I'm just throwing my insecurities or maybe my doubts in myself, which are still not good to show all the time. Those things I started realizing throughout the year, and you have to get into it and really, like you said, there's a sort of self-respect that gets lost, but it's not in a way of like I'm a loser or I don't deserve it. It's more of like, you could have been so much better. You have to just like let go of this, let go of that. But it takes time. It takes time to, like, that's what I see right now. People always tell me that's the biggest thing to me, is that they're like, you're young, but don't take it as in like you're young forever. Like, you're gonna blink of an eye and you're gonna be 40, you're gonna be 50. And I look forward to those days where I feel like I'm gonna be able to see my work that today in those years. I hope it comes out good.
Yeah, I mean, like, seeing your work pay off is obviously great. We talk about going back to relationships. That's actually a very big thing we talk on the retreat, because every single time, I'm telling you, it's so wild. There's always people on the retreat who've been through a divorce, people who've been through a brutal breakup. They're in a new relationship. Maybe they're single. There's all different types of dynamics, which I personally love, because everyone comes from a different perspective. And sometimes what people realize is the person that they were with was actually the devil. That's the devil, what the devil wanted. It's not what God wanted. God didn't have this person for you, right? And so sometimes I think breakups, in my opinion, is one of the hardest things to get through. I think there are three things that you really learn a lot about yourself: breakup, a friend turning their back on you, like a really good friend, and going broke. I think all three of those things, as much as they suck in the moment, are the best life lessons. They teach you the most about life. They teach you how to deal with yourself. They teach you how to manage your emotions. Again, when it talks about pressure, you go through all three of those, you're going to have some pressure on yourself.
You know what's crazy? You just described my past year.
And guess what? Think about how much you grew.
Bro, it's fucking gnarly. Like, it's just insane. And I'm sorry to interrupt you on that, but it's just like you described it, and I was just like, damn, like that hit me back to back. And you feel that pressure, and you're just, it's dark.
And I think the biggest thing about life is always being humble, because it can happen to anyone. I mean, year and a half ago, I went through it. It sucked. I've had friends betray me. I actually had my old mentor, who I used to do retreats with, completely cut me off, because he's like, well, like, if this is going to be Christian based, we probably shouldn't be doing this, right? It's like, well, this is what we're doing, right? And this is how much we're charging, and this is what we're doing. Because for me, this was my plan through God. God used me as a vessel to start doing the retreats. For me, like, I'm at a point in my life where I know what God has for me, and I want to continue to follow that plan. If anyone or anything's going to take me off that plan, I don't want to be involved, right? Whether it's a relationship, whether it's a business partner, whether it's somebody who's trying to do retreats with me, it's a friend. Like, I am so in tune and touch with God. I want to make sure that what His plan is, that's the road that I'm taking. And a lot of people don't understand that. A lot of people may be like, well, like, my plan just sounds better. Yeah, it may sound better, but for long-term growth and long-term love and happiness, what are you really after? Because when you're 50 and 60, maybe that friend that you were with for 20 years and he ended up backstabbing you ended up really screwing you over, you know? So you just gotta like really be careful with some of those things.
Definitely. Now, this whole episode, man, you've been giving facts and knowledge and everything, and I'm not saying it's not enough, you know? It's more than enough. But maybe what's one thing right now that you've seen work on a couple of guys that, you know, it's more common than we think, like maybe an advice or a tip that might help them improve in their life that they could kind of implement, not giving away too much, but maybe through this they can see if like, hey, if I implement this, give it like a trial, hey, it's probably working. What's one of the things that you've realized helps most men in their everyday life reaching goals or becoming better?
I think control the controllables, right? So for example, as a personal trainer, I say you have all the control in the world to get fit. There's no excuse. If you have both arms, both legs, your brain functions normally, you have no excuse, right? You know, you can go to the gym. Gym membership's $10. You can eat clean. You can drink water. You can do all those things, right? Even if you don't have enough money for a gym membership, you can still get in the best shape of your life with literally no workout equipment, right? You can do that. And that is something you can fully control. You don't need anybody. You don't need a friend, right? You don't need anybody to, to come into play and like mess that up. But you think about it in business, you could be doing everything correctly, right? Everything correctly. You're selling great, but like people are just not buying. Maybe you're just having a bad month. You're like, I'm doing everything right. Like I'm being organized. I'm selling, I'm prospecting, but like nothing's hitting. But with working out, you are fully in control, right? And sometimes you think about it in relationships, you may be doing everything great, right? You may be loyal, you may be intentional, you may be doing everything so well, you may be giving your 100%, but the person you're with ends up cheating on you. You have no control over that. You did everything in your power, right? So as a man, if you are at a point where you feel like you're a little lost, the number one tip of advice I would say is get in the gym and go crazy. Like go crazy about your fitness. Go 5 days a week. Eat clean, focus on sleep, get water intake, go for walks, get sunlight. Like those are things you can fully control. Sunlight's free. Going into a cold river is free. Doing body weight workouts is free. All those things are free. Some of the best life hacks, the best biohacks you can do in life are fully free. So just go ahead and do those, right? You don't have to pay for those things. Just do those and just see after 30 days how much your life improves.
Hell yeah, dude. I think it's when that's your vessel, your body. You say you don't need anybody, you need a body, and it's yours. That's all you need, yeah, that's a big one. I feel like I need to get back into it. The holidays were probably my last excuse of like, hey, I haven't been able to work out or whatever. Getting back to it, I'm excited because once you're away from it, you realize like, if I let go, it's gonna all let go. So, but I can attest to that fact that yeah, like working out, even as little as I do it, maybe now at least gives me a push every week. That like, hey, like if you're aching, it means that you haven't done it in a while. You gotta keep doing it, bud. I think one of my biggest feats was the legs. That I was like, whoa, I work with my legs. I gotta keep them, more stable or whatever. Not trying to be sore. Dude, I've been doing legs for like the last 2 weeks, like putting it at least once or twice a week, and yeah, it's very humbling because you're like, I forgot that this was
and that's the cool thing about the gym though. It teaches you a lot about life, right?
Yeah.
When you're pushing for a couple more reps, you're thinking about life, like pushing one more sales call, right? Pushing one more deal through before the day ends, right? You can relate so much to the gym, right? Because at the end of the day, you think about the gym, you think about the recovery aspect, you think of the strength aspect, you think of the cardio aspect, you think of so many different aspects of the gym, and you can relate it so many different things in life. But again, when you talk about controlling things, like that's the number one thing you can control.
And with motivation, it's not always there. What what has pushed you, or what have you seen helps guys push through when motivation isn't in the passage?
You got to find the emotion that relates best to you. And what I mean by that is whatever has got to help you get across the finish line, use that. Some people, they go through a breakup and that's what gets them going in the gym. Some people remember how they used to be overweight and they never want to go back to that. Some people remember when they were super skinny and they never want to go back to that. That emotion, use that consistently. Because at the end of the day, I could always just be like, oh, just be disciplined. But it's like, well, what is an actual reason that can help you get started in the gym? Everyone has something. Whether you got made fun of when you were younger, maybe a parent kind of like harassed you in a way, bullied you on a subconscious level when you didn't even realize it. Use that emotion. That emotion will drive you when you don't have the motivation. That emotion will drive you when you literally do not want to do anything else other than sit on your ass and do nothing. That emotion will take you places that nothing else, no sort of motivation, nothing can take you. It's to find that emotion. And when you find that emotion and you get consistent with the gym, it'll change your life.
And I feel like it's not to be taken in the fact of like lull into that, like whatever made you upset. Like don't sit there and cry about it. It's more as like if you're gonna feel something about it, let that emotion drive you, not sink you. And I feel like that's the best thing to take away from it.
Right. So like I had a client call the other day, and their uncle just passed due to diabetes, and they were overweight. And I told them like, hey, like, do you feel like that runs in your family? And they said, no, it doesn't run in my family. It just, this is how my family is. You know, some people like, this isn't our genetics. Like, no. What's in them is their habits, right? What's in them is their subconscious programming on what they do consistently. They eat bad, they don't work out, they don't drink water, they don't sleep well, all of it, right? So like, it doesn't run in the family. It's just the subconscious patterns just have consistently went down the bloodline. When do you make the decision to say enough is enough, and I'm going to make sure that the emotion that I use is I'm going to be the person that stops this right now. I'm going to be the person that makes sure that when my kids are born and when my grandkids are born, they don't have to go through the same BS that I went through.
Definitely, man. Dude, it's a great podcast. I'm glad we were able to do this because the new year, hard to keep consistent. You know, like you said, like right now the gyms are full. Let's see people in February, March. You know, let's see if I'll make it. You know, it's very hard to start off a year. You're getting off from maybe blacking out one day out of the 2 weeks. Every one day. So I mean, it's gonna be tough for a lot of, especially I want to be able to like share this and to a female audience if it attracts them. But yeah, sorry if it sounds a little selfish, but it's for the guys because a lot of us guys don't have anybody to lean on. Nobody to be vulnerable with. And maybe at this point, maybe you're not even being vulnerable, but you're watching a community of guys. Like I'll have more of my brothers that were on the retreat as well, that you could even reach out or like listen to their stories. And I'm glad they're able to share that. That's going to come up and look for it, look for it. We're going to be sharing, your information shortly. Look for it in your own brothers and your own community around you, who you're hanging around with, and looking forward to that. Any closing remarks? Where can people find you, man?
Yeah, so Instagram, Michael_Chiara, Chiara. That is where I pretty much, any questions about the retreats, any questions about personal training, any questions you have personally for me, reach out. Would love to help you in any way I can. If you have any questions or if you're interested in the retreat, there is a form in my LinkedIn tree on my bio. Just click there, fill out the form. I'll get back to you in 24 hours. We're looking at the end of February, early March for the next retreat. Super excited for it. We got a couple guys already committed. Just don't know the exact date yet. Just trying to get just the right date for that. But man, I'm just excited for 2025. I think we're at a point in the world right now where people are kind of sick and tired of where they're at. And I think people are looking for more accountability. Like we said earlier, they're looking for God, community, and growth. And the retreats 100% have that ability to get all three of those in just a weekend. But more importantly, the people that you surround yourself with, because if you go to a retreat once, that may be great, but the last thing I'd want is after you leave 48 hours, you're the same person. So it's about staying consistent, right? Finding that emotion that drives you and just focus on what you want in 2025.
Michael Chiara, we will have all information right here. Thank you, brother, for another episode. I know the first one was great. It was great, and I'm glad I took that. You and me both know what was in there, and maybe that's just for us to share for the rest of the time. But for now, we're glad that we got able to share this with a lot more people. This won't be the last time you'll see Michael on the show or in any videos that are to come up. I'd be happy to keep sharing all of the word through him and maybe more motivational. But guys, if you have that doubt, if you have maybe those questions and you haven't found answers, it doesn't hurt to go look. I always tell people, like, when I went, it wasn't on, like, I had no expectations. The only thing I wanted was grab something, please. Like, just grab something out of it. Don't let it just go to waste. And it's not gonna happen overnight. Don't expect results overnight. That's not the goal. That's not the memo. It's more of like you're here to be enlightened. Open your eyes. Be vulnerable. Go into it with an open mind. Expect nothing. Absorb what you need. Observe, and just be willing to learn. I think that's the biggest thing. Like, I met, some of the brothers there were very powerful people, and watching them give you that space, that vulnerability, that like openness to like, here, this is what I do, this is who I am. It's not to be taken lightly. So you got to go in with a humble mind and go ready to meet guys that are going to be doing maybe the same shit as you and better. And that's going to be a power tool, but just got to be going with open mind. We don't know everything, The one who thinks he knows everything is a fool. And yeah, brother. Any closing remarks, man?
Like I said, just super blessed for you and grateful for you, and I love what you're doing, and I'm excited to see your podcast grow in 2025.
I appreciate it, brother. Well, thank you guys so much for joining us one more time on Pep Talks Podcast. Happy New Year. Happy 2025. We're going to be going way harder this year. We're going to be working harder and smarter, man. I appreciate you, brother. Thank you so much. Michael Chiara, everybody. Let's go. Super good, huh? The best.